Dope. Which will be good because then we can edit it in case. And I don't know if we have anyone in right now. If we have anyone in, they need to say hello.
For sure. It'll tell us at some point when there are people in, and I'm gonna write the chat.
Yeah. Which will be good because then we can edit it. Oh, I need to turn off that. I don't know if Gaither emailed everybody.
Gotcha.
I don't know if that ever happened. So that's going to be a question. But Andrew Thomas is here. Andy,
what time is it in the UK? What time is it? I love how Andy is faithfully on the Founders and Friends call. Faithfully.
Andy, wonderfully, Andy has reminded me that I need to respond to my supervisor in England about when we're meeting next. So thank you, Andy. Andy. Email him back.
Yo, one of these days we're going to do a live event and Andy's going to be there and it's going to be amazing.
Actually, we should bring Andy on. If Andy is not too tired.
It's midnight right now in the UK, and Andy may be in his pajamas. Who knows?
That is true.
Or his smoking coat, his smoking robe.
Because we've got some exciting news about what's coming up in 8 days.
Yeah. So here's the deal. Whoever's not here can catch this on the rebroadcast. I'm pretty sure we rebroadcast these. I think we do that. So here's the cool thing that we're doing for the book of Revelation this month, which is our first time doing this. And I think people are going to love it. And I'm now wishing we had done it for Exodus because Exodus was a very, very long course. So shout out to anyone who has completed Exodus, who's gone through Exodus. I'm in bed. And he's like, yeah, I am in bed.
No one's joining in that scenario.
Yeah. I wish we had done this for Exodus, but we're going to do it for Revelation. And what we're going to do for the book of Revelation is Andy Thomas is teaching Revelation. Quran. Andy Thomas is teaching Revelation. And we're going to drop the shorter version of the course. So like a Reader's Digest version of the course. And then we're going to drop the version of the course for Bible nerds. So we're going to do a like Revelation for all the normal people and then a Revelation for all the Bible nerds that's going to be like triple, quadruple the length of the mini course. So we're still thinking about what to call it. We're either going to call it a mini course and a course, or we're just going to call it Revelation for everyone who's not trying to watch a 10-hour course. We're realizing that, you know, some people in the ARMA community are like, yo, give me all the nerdness. I want to watch like hours and hours and hours. But then there's a lot of people who are like, man, I'm on the go. So we're going to start filming some shorter content, just obviously, you know, as our monthly courses. And this is a recipe, you know, that we're figuring out the right, you know, we're tasting the stuff. I think that's what 2020 has been like. We're creating all this content and we're figuring out what vibes well with our crew and what people like, what people don't like. So November, we're experimenting with a short version of the course and then a long version of the course. And people can kind of choose which one they want to take. I think that's really cool, Aaron.
Oh, I think so. And I think it's a dope course already.
It is.
And the long version.
The world's about to end, Aaron, and we need to study Revelation.
Yeah, you know, everyone who's going to be watching it, you've got about 3 days until Election Day, which means you've got 3 days to watch the whole thing, and then the world's going to end. So it's okay. You need the Reader's Digest version.
Yeah.
So yeah, We also have some exciting things coming up in terms of, do you want to talk about giveaways?
Oh, yes. All right. So we've got a month full of giveaways. So not only is the world going to end, and we're going to talk about Revelation in November, we're going to vote. We're going to vote. We're going to talk about the end of the world, and we're going to give away a lot of things.
Oh, we should talk about the reading challenge first, and then the giveaways.
Let's talk about the reading challenge. Go for it, Aaron.
Yeah.
I feel like you're kind of the brainchild behind this one. So tell us about the reading challenge.
Yeah. So, we all, I think if you're a Christian at all, you've probably struggled at least a little bit with the election cycle, maybe just a little, right? And, I think a big question, a question that Manny and I both get asked is like, is the Bible like a guide for voting? And it's an interesting question, but it's also a weird question because we're asking a 21st century question on a 2,000-year-old at its earliest book. And so what we decided to do was do a reading challenge where we're going to talk about some of the main issues. It's going to be a 5-day reading challenge where we talk about some of the main issues of voting and how we should vote as Christians and why we should vote. There'll be a kind of like an introductory video that I've shot. There'll be 3 chapters of scripture to read and to reflect on, and it'll be a sign-up thing. So you get to sign up, give us your email. We'll email you every day, the guide, the video, kind of things to go along with it. And we'll talk about voting and the issues related to it, right? So the long, or the short of the long, that's the right way of saying it. The short of the long is the Bible is not a voting guide, but it also is. So
it's not, but it is.
It's not, but it is.
The beauty, yeah.
So we're going to talk about what that means and how it should be used as a voting guide, but it might be a little bit different than we first expect. So that's going to start next. Signups are going to start next week.
Next week.
And then it starts on Friday. Yeah, starts on Friday. I was trying to count the days down. So sign up next week, and there'll be a link to give us your email, and then you'll start getting the emails. And it's going to be a lot of fun. I think it's also going to be challenging. And
I think it's going to be challenging.
If you haven't voted yet, I think it'll be helpful. If you have voted, it'll still be helpful for the future. I mean, I already voted. I got my sticker today. So
we have to do like a mail-in ballot. I'm currently out of the country, and so we've got to do like a mail-in ballot thing. Tia figured it out. I am voting. I know that. I am voting.
And it's Quran, right? I want to make sure I get his name right.
It's Quran.
Yeah, man. I think we're all struggling with it. I think, well, let me put it this way. I think if we're not struggling with it, there's a problem.
Okay, Aaron, let's talk about this. Let's talk about this, okay?
Yeah.
Now you can tell me what you think about my opinion. My opinion is probably going to be a little this may be controversial, but what do I say that's not controversial at this point, man?
What do I say that's not controversial? The people going hard on me on the Instagram post about God going to hell that I had to kind of go back on.
Dude, if it's who I think it was, I probably started that because someone DM'd me and was like, I don't know if a Calvinist would describe themselves this way or something. And I was like, yeah, man, just leave that comment under the post. And then they did. And I saw you guys going back and forth a little bit. Is there only one person who you were debating with in the comment section?
Yeah, and I don't know if debate, but more just clarification, maybe.
Josh Ardos?
Yeah.
Yeah, dude, that was totally me. That was all me. I sent Josh to you, bro. That was an alley-oop.
I think he still doesn't like what I had to say, but that's theology, I guess.
So, okay, this is a little controversial. I feel as though voting is a very amoral decision. So, amoral. I don't think it is. Well, I'll say it this way. I think voting in the modern democratic American two-party system is an amoral activity.
Yeah.
Because I don't think there is a Christian option, right? So there is no option that is more Christian than another, which I think puts us in a scenario where, like, if I'm having to choose between Nike and Adidas, Nike is not any more Christian than Adidas, and vice versa, or Adidas. Adidas is not any more Christian than Nike, right? These are so same with Delta and American Airlines. I'm like, I don't think either one of these is more Christian than the other. I think that. So is this bad, Aaron? Is it bad that I remove morality from voting? Tell me if I'm wrong.
No, I'm it's a complicated question, right? Like, is it moral, immoral, right? And I think
they have moral implications, don't get me
right.
wrong. But it's not just I think when you put both on the scales, it's not there's no clear, decisive, this is more Christian.
Yeah. Well, it's definitely not. I don't think there's any kind of clear Christian candidate. And I think if we track the Christian history of thinking about voting,
mm-hmm.
Christians used to vote pretty divided, right? Like there was no sense of there's a party that's a Christian party, right?
Mm-hmm. You're saying Christians used to vote really divided?
Yes. It wasn't until the kind of late 70s, like 6 or 7 years after Roe v. Wade, that what's called the moral majority coalesced Christians together on voting against abortion, which meant voting Republican at the time. And so what happened, though, was that because Christians rallied around that one issue primarily, there is really no discussion. It's Christians are Republican because there's one issue. But millennial Christians don't see it that way anymore, and Gen Z definitely won't. They don't look at things as singular issues, right? Like they think of things as kind of there's an ethical hierarchy, right? Like yes, abortion is really important, but so is healthcare and making sure that marginalized people groups are given equity and equality, and people who are poor have ways of getting out of poverty. Mm-hmm. Like it's no longer one issue, it's a lot of issues, and the environment's another big part of that issue, right? So now there's no such thing as I'm a single issue voter for Christian millennials or Christian some older generations have that kind of thing, but it's probably really big for Christian millennials. So your exact question, is there an amoral party? No, right? It is amoral. It is without morals. I think they do have moral implications. I think that's what makes it really hard.
For sure.
No matter how Christians vote, clearly Christians are always going to vote in the sense that we hope these things happen and these things don't happen.
For sure. But right. Here's is it okay for my thinking on this to be compartmentalized? Because it is. I'm personally a little bit compartmentalized when it comes to voting. I vote based on the Constitution and my responsibility as a citizen. That's how I vote. When Jesus says my kingdom is not of this world, I guess I just take that really seriously. And I'm like, yeah, oh man, this is a bomb. But constitutionally, like based on the Constitution, the way I interpret the Constitution, I personally believe that somebody who is in a same-sex relationship should have equal rights. I believe that constitutionally. Do I believe that homosexuality is the best moral choice for a person? No, I don't. Do I believe that homosexuality is good or right? Of course not. But I don't vote based on my moral opinions. I vote based on what do I think is right based on the Constitution. So when I vote as an American, and I feel like the way that I live my life is as a Christian. And yeah. I separate what I do as to vote and what I do to live my life. Like, so I'll give you two examples, right?
Yeah.
I know people who, and I think I'd fit into this camp, I know people who vote pro-life, but their life isn't very pro-life. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So there's a disconnect between how they vote. And sometimes I think voting gives us a false sense of accomplishment. Like we accomplish something when really it's kind of like, well, who's the last person that you know that was struggling with or debating whether they should get an abortion? And what did you do about it? You know, I think that to me matters way more than how did you vote on an issue? So the opposite is also true. Or I'll give a different example, but the inverse of the same thing. I may vote in favor of, let's say, equal rights based on sexual orientation. But personally, I am definitely discipling people out of homosexual choices. So on one end, I know people who vote very Christian, but don't live very Christian. And then I can say there are moments in my personal life where I may not vote very Christian, but the way that I act is very Christian. So that's the inverse, right, of the two different issues that are hot button issues for Christians. And I guess to me, there's this juxtaposition between how I vote versus the decisions, not just on election day, but on Wednesday, Thursday, like after that, moving forward in my interpersonal relationships.
Yeah, I think
am I compartmentalizing, and is that wrong?
So I think it's definitely compartmentalizing. And Andy, but I'm not going to say it's right or wrong yet, but Andy kind of, I think Andy pointing out, that's a much more common thing in England than in the US, right? Like, I think there are a lot more Christians from my understanding too. And Andy's kind of backing up of that in England that are more, divided, and there's that space to be, like my two supervisors at my PhD institution at Birmingham, one was pro-Brexit, the one was anti-Brexit, and like it wasn't a Christian thing, right? Like to be either way. And
you're saying they didn't moralize it. They didn't.
Yeah. What I would say is I think there is a sense, and I talk about this a little bit in kind of our Jesus for President voting challenge, mm-hmm. right? That on one hand, Paul was kind of clear about the Christians in Rome and what they should do with the Roman government, which was as best you can. And this is kind of me just, I don't know, Reader's Digest version like a really complicated book, right? As best you can, live at peace with the government. As best you can, right?
Yeah.
And if you owe them taxes, pay them taxes. And if you owe someone, if someone has power, then they have that power. But then if we don't read Romans correctly, we won't recognize that Paul is also telling the church at Rome to rebel against the government, right? Like when Paul tells the Christians and the church at Rome to confess with their mouth that Jesus is Lord, he's telling them, don't follow Rome, because Rome says that you have to say Caesar is Lord. You keep doing what you're supposed to do, and you say Jesus is Lord, right? And so there's this kind of like both and for Paul. Like, how do you best live in relationship to the government that has been put over you, while also not forgetting that that's not really your government anyways? So it kind of is a compartmentalizing, right? Like it is a, yeah, that's the power of this world. And yet what we're telling you to do is live up to the power of this world. And I think you're spot on when you say, like, sometimes we use voting as an excuse not to do something.
For sure.
Right? So I vote, this is a hypothetical, not saying who I voted for, but I vote Republican. It's anti-abortion. So I don't actually really have to go out and help people who are struggling with this reality, and not just help them not have an abortion, but also recognize the reasons why they wouldn't or would want an abortion, like their poverty or their, inability to take care of a child, whatever it may be. And not just say, I'm going to support you, but I'm going to support you all the way through this.
Yeah.
Right? Which is like the Christian community thing to do. Support people from, the pregnancy. It's why we do baby dedications. It's why in a baby dedication, we actually say this community is going to rally around and support in the rearing of this child. Right?
Baby dedication and funerals, baby. That's a church, from the womb to the tomb.
Right there, So I think you're right. I just, by compartmentalizing, I think maybe it's best to stay clear and saying we're compartmentalizing and saying the kingdom of God is always and should be first, no matter what. And we are people who have to live in a government, and who we are as Christians can influence the way that we engage with the government, but that government is not our kingdom, and we have to remember that always.
For sure. Dang it. How familiar, Aaron, are you with like Lou Engle?
With who?
Lou Engle. Like,
not.
Dang it, dude. I mean, Lou Engle was massive, probably early 2000s. Acquire the Fire.
Oh, yep. Okay. Yeah, now I know it. I have his book. Now
big prayer and fasting movements. Dude, I just think, I know a lot of people, like personal friends of mine, acquaintances rather, who, in their teenage years signed pledges, commitments, like altar calls and commitment cards to never vote for a candidate who is pro-abortion,
Yeah.
Like, and I guess I can really see how, like, for someone who grew up in that kind of what I would call, that's your formative years, like formative teenage years, to be in a arena with 10, 15,000 people, and for a religious leader to stand up and say, this is evil, and abortion is evil. Like, this is so, I hate that I even have to qualify these statements by saying, of course, abortion is evil. Like, I don't know many Christians who are debating whether or not killing an unborn child is wrong or is sinful or is evil. But dude, the arenas would be filled with like images of partial birth abortions. I mean, pretty graphic images.
Yeah.
And you're talking about teenagers signing pledge cards that say they will never vote for someone who is, they will never vote for a candidate who's pro-choice.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. If I can throw something in there, because it reminds me of like a personal story, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that personal story is like, there was a moment in my life, like where, well, actually, no, I guess when I turned 21, we'll start there. That's a great place. When I turned 21, I specifically remember I didn't live with my parents. I was out of the house, but whatever. But I remember my mom, when I turned 21, being like, now remember the promise you made me. And I was like, what promise did I make you? Right. And she was like, when you were 5, you promised me you would never have a drink of alcohol. And I was like, I was 5. I didn't even know what alcohol was. If you would have told me to promise you anything, you're my mom, I would have said yes. Like, there's no chance I wouldn't have, right?
This is great.
Like when and I hesitate to use this language, but I think to some degree this language is correct. Like, when we do spiritual manipulation, and I don't think my mom was spiritually manipulating me. She was more joking. It was more of like something just as a kid, like she was just having fun. But like when you do this kind of like spiritual manipulation, where I do feel like that may be, where it's like, hey, promise this thing. This is the only way to be a Christian. It's going to do more damage than good. Because especially when someone is going through all of these issues, you and I were talking a little bit about it, so I'll bring it up now, but like John Piper, who I have a drastic love-hate relationship with his theology. Like it is either I freaking love something he said, or what he has said is the Antichrist itself. Like, and I'm clear, it's his theology, not him. Him as a person, I think he's a wonderful guy.
Dude, I think John Piper loves the Lord, loves the Word, loves the Bible, loves ministry. John Piper is an inspiration to me. So we are talking about the theology, not the person. I just want to reiterate what you're saying. Yeah, I'm with it.
Very much, right? Because on one hand, if he's going to stand up and say that women can't be professors in Bible college because they're women, I'm going to be pissed. But on the other hand, if he's going to say what he said today, I'm going to be like, "What? You hit it! Like you hit the nail on the head," which was, there is a sense in which we have. I'm going to paraphrase what he said, right, in my own words.
I've got the article like pulled up right here, but yes, go for it.
The paraphrase is, you can't sell out to the devil for the promise of something better. And why I paraphrase it that way is because he basically makes this claim of, there's 2 issues at hand. There is what he called like the gangrene of the way that the country has gone in the past few years. This like disease that he literally talks about, right? Like this gangrenous destruction of the US. And it's being juxtaposed against abortion. And he said, we have to recognize that it's not an either or thing. And really, he kind of points out all the different like things that the New Testament points out that leads to death. And all of them, none of them, I'll just say, none of them are abortion, the issue of abortion as a political issue. They're all things like boasting and name calling and how we live as people. And I'm like, you got it, right? Like, this issue is much more complicated. It's much more blurry. In the article, he doesn't say who he's voting for, because it's not even a voting for a lesser of 2 evils, right? Like, because again, the voting thing is not the moral thing. Voting to allow someone the space to do something is not saying that you think they should do it.
Aaron, that is very good. That's very good. Yeah, dude. Yes.
Well,
Wow.
we'll put it this way. Well, the argument is often like, I always tell people, you cannot vote someone to be moral.
Agreed.
And there is no policy that's going to make people moral people.
Yep.
That's why Martin Luther King Jr. talked about racism not as a hard issue, but there are policies that needed to stop because people were dying. But at the same time, we can talk about gun violence, as in we can use that same argument there, right? Like, yes, people who kill people with guns have a heart issue, but we can also do some policies to stop people getting guns who have the heart issue, right? Like,
yeah.
This is a very expansive reality when we're thinking about voting, and it is complicated and it is blurry, but we have to recognize that if we as a people can't come together, if we as Americans can't, and we don't have someone who can lead us to come together, no amount of voting for morality is going to work. End of story.
Okay. I mean, I'm just gonna read part of what John Piper said today.
Yeah.
This was published today, right, Aaron?
Yep.
It says, I think Roe is an evil decision. I think Planned Parenthood is a code name for baby killing and, historically at least, ethnic cleansing. And I think it is baffling and presumptuous to assume that pro-abortion policies kill more people than a culture saturating pro-self pride. When a leader models self-absorbed, self-exalting boastfulness, he models the most deadly behavior in the world. He points his nation to destruction of more kinds than we can imagine. It is naive to think that a man can be effectively pro-life and manifest consistently the character traits that lead to death, temporal and eternal.
Yeah.
That is what John Piper said.
That's a hard-hitting article, right? Like, he's not pulling any punches when he says
John Piper is playing zero games.
No. And for once with John Piper playing zero games, I'm glad he's playing zero games. Right.
Yo, live by the sword, die by the sword. I mean, John Piper is like living by no games and dying by no games. I mean, he's no games about this.
No. And
wow, man.
And
I the article when you sent it to me, and that part really, really, really stuck out to me.
It's why, yeah, as Karan said, like, we have a heart issue as a whole country. And when things are modeled for us as a country that are anything but a morally consistent nature, we're only making that heart issue worse.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I think he brings up something really great in that article, and I don't know if you saw that kind of part yet, but he mentioned, there are times in the Old Testament where it said that the king led the people into sinfulness.
Wow.
And he brings up the point that it's not because the king said you have to worship these idols. It's because the king led the way in the worship of idols.
Yeah.
Like, the king actually said the king started worshiping idols themselves, and then the people followed suit because the king did it.
Yeah.
Right? It's for those who haven't watched the course yet, it's Amos, right? The nation of Israel, the kings and the leaders of the nation of Israel started acting with anything but justice. And then the whole nation followed suit.
Yeah.
And destruction came because the leaders modeled, the people followed, and God said, enough of this, right?
Yeah.
I think it's a scary moment.
Dude, I mean, wow. Yeah, dude, this article, no lie, Aaron, me and you should probably do a podcast episode just reading this statement by John Piper.
We'll have a hot takes with Manny and Aaron.
Just literally, we can say John Piper's our podcast guest as clickbait to get people to like watch it. To quote my second favorite fictional president, being president is all about character. Yo, Andy, who is your second favorite fictional?
I'm going to guess before he said it, and I'm guessing it's West Wing. I don't know because I can't remember that quote, but I loved that show, and he was a pretty morally concerned character in a show.
Oh God!
But it's funny that he's ranked his fictional characters and favorites.
I also want this ranking. I want a top 5 list, man.
Who's number 1 on that list?
So many questions. Andy's one statement has spawned so many questions. Dude, I actually think that we could do a podcast and say John Piper's our guest. And I don't know if I'm the only one, but I don't see many politicians as moral leaders, especially career politicians. Yeah, I mean, I don't, but here's the question, Julie. Are we supposed to? You know, like, are we supposed to? And I guess by morals, okay. And Aaron, tell me what you think about this, because I kind of see morals as like, I see morals, right? Like just morals. Hey, don't lie. You know what I mean? Just morals. And then I see Christian morals. Like I kind of make a distinction between morals and Christian morals.
Sorry, I just got really excited because I was right about Andy Thomas's favorite character.
Number 1 is Bartlett from West Wing. I'm like, dude, what I said was not that profound, Aaron.
I know. Sorry, I got really excited. Sorry, that was
okay. I see a distinction between morals, just morals, right? Like when Tiger Woods cheats on his wife, people have a problem. You get what I'm saying? Like that's just morals. You know what I'm saying? Like, I do think that there's just a morality that exists within humans. And to me, I hold, or is this impossible? Tell me if this is impossible. I hold non-Christians to just a universal moral standard.
No, but Romans, Paul does, right? The law of God is written in all people's hearts, right? Like,
but is that a Christian ethic? Is that a unique Christian ethic? You know what I'm saying? Right. Is the law of God universally speaking? It's almost like, I can't remember the exact words right now, but providential grace and salvific grace. You know what I'm saying? Like God woke everybody up this morning, whether we're Christian or not, because we just all have. Was that prevenient grace? Is that the right word?
Prevenient, yeah.
Prevenient, right?
Apparently I got Andy's thing wrong, and now I'm really disappointed because
number 2 is President Shepard from American President.
Never even heard of it.
I've never heard of it. That American President must be a British film.
No, I hear what you're saying, and to Julie's point, I think no, I don't see them as moral leaders. I don't, but I do expect a morality, kind of like I think that's what Manny was trying to say.
And they're moral leaders.
No, because I don't look to them personally as a Christian. I don't look to. Oh gosh, now I think that there is a modeling for a decency of humanity that must come from whoever is leading.
Okay, but I'm saying, would we not say that's morals? That would be morals. Prevenient. I would call it prevenient morals, right?
Yeah, if you want to kind of put it in that category, then yes.
That's why I was making the comparison. Like, prevenient grace is not salvific grace. Those aren't like prevenient grace is just, hey, this person may die and not go to heaven, but they were able to build wealth and they had a family, like just prevenient grace. I guess I see morals and a Christian ethic as the same. Like morals, like, man, you got Hammurabi's code, which is written before the 10 Commandments. Like, human beings have some kind of compass that helps us be moral. Now, is it God's perfect ethic? Is it the Christian ethic? No. I would not compare common sense morality to Christian ethics. But which is why I said, I think that's why when Tiger Woods cheats on his wife, everyone, it doesn't matter if you're a Christian, a non-Christian, a Muslim, a Buddhist, or whatever, whoever you are, you're like, yeah, well, that's wrong, right? Do I also think that non-Christians lack an ability to know what is always right and always wrong? Of course, we're not. They are working with a broken compass, but it's still a compass. So are we? Because I'm saying John Piper and Amos, there's some kind of responsibility that the leader of a nation has. When you look at the book of Daniel, Nebuchadnezzar is responsible for the pride in self-worship, right? Daniel chapter 4, verse 33, God judges Nebuchadnezzar for inflation of ego, for self-worship. So that's like, are they moral? You know what I'm saying? Are they? That's a loaded. I think that's complicated and really nuanced.
And maybe what I can hear you say, if I can just process it for a second, is just say it out loud. Maybe we've gotten to a place where we're actually saying what we expect, not as leaders, but what we expect is that basic morality that all humans should have. But we're not looking for the Christian ethic from our leaders, from our political leaders.
Exactly. I'm not looking for a Christian ethic from a career politician as Julie, especially Christian. And I would agree. Like the rub is that President Trump isn't a career politician. You know what I'm saying? Like, right. It's tough. Like, maybe this is why you need a monarch. We have a moral figurehead who inspires and unites us and is openly Christian. Then we have people like Boris who actually run the country. Andy, look, dude, yes, let's get a king. I'm all about that.
I mean, I'm kind of tempted at this point, and depending on what happens in November, I'm kind of tempted to be like, we'll just give ourselves back to England. Like, sorry for the whole 1776 thing. Let's try this again. We had a bad breakup. We're ready to give it another shot. You know what I mean?
Oh, God.
But I'm also technically my kind of, I'm British in my background, so whatever. Maybe I'm not so opposed.
I've got a question, bro. This may seem so left field, but I've got a question. And there may not be a way to really answer this. We'll see. I just got to ask it. Do you think Anglicanism is on the rise?
Yes.
You do? Okay. You do.
But so I'll say it this way. And just to kind of like reiterate, I think maybe to end our point with Julie's kind of like point there, is to say we expect morality, not a Christian ethic, right? Yeah. Like from leaders. And if
I don't know, what do you think about that delineation between just basic morality versus a Christian ethic, which is obviously...
Well, there's clearly something in which, like you said, we all know that cheating is wrong. We all know that lying is wrong. We all know these kind of basic assumptions, right?
Have you seen like The Murderer Next Door? Have you seen this on dude, this, oh man, it's terrible. And everyone understands it. It's terrible. You know what I'm saying? This husband killed his wife and his 2 daughters. Like, everyone understands this is bad. Like, morality within the human doesn't always work though. Like, because I would say, it's obvious to me that abortion is wrong. You know what I'm saying?
Well, And I think that is kind of Paul's point, maybe a bit in that Romans passage, that the law of God is written in all humans' hearts. I don't think Paul is talking about a Christian ethic in terms of like, here's how to live Christ-like, as much as it is, here are some of the things that are just morality. And that's an interesting point that you make, Julie, is that just that thing. Adultery is immoral, but we don't make it illegal. Although we used to, and that's where you get the scarlet letter. I think we've got Daniel on actually wanting to join to ask a question.
How did he get a link?
I sent it out to the Facebook groups for anyone who wants to get on.
Okay, Daniel's going to ask a question. This is awesome.
But then we'll get back to Anglicanism here in a little bit. But I will say, just to clarify that, I don't mean Anglicanism is on the rise as much as I mean liturgical forms of Christianity, which include Anglicanism. But we'll get there.
I want to dive our last 5 minutes. We just need to talk about Anglicanism. All right, let's let Daniel on. Our youngest founder.
What's up, Manny?
What up, dude?
I'm doing good. I was laughing so hard when Aaron was talking about how we should just go back to England and say it was a bad breakup. That was like really funny. I'm tempted too, because like I don't want a civil war. I'm too young. This November, you know what I mean? I really don't want.
I hope most people don't want that.
I want no parts. I want no parts.
Exactly.
All right. Well, tell us your question.
So my question was basically, recently in college they've been covering like apocalyptic literature, and there's some professors, of course, that say they don't believe in the rapture and things like that, and they don't interpret Revelations that way, right? Because I guess that view on it and that interpretation is only like 150 years old. So I was just kind of curious. They haven't covered it so much, but if people don't really believe in the rapture, how are they interpreting those visions from John then? Like, what are they getting from that book?
Yeah,
okay. Number one, our course on Revelation drops in November.
That's nice.
And
so a lot of those answers.
The very first time, we're doing a short version of the course and a long version of the course.
Okay.
So if you've got like 2 hours, you can watch the short version. If you've got like 10 hours, you can watch the long version. So you should watch the course on Revelation, because this is right up that alley.
All right, that sounds good.
I can give you like maybe the Reader's Digest.
Go for it.
Andy can tell me if we're wrong in the chat, since he's the expert here. First off, in its context and in its time, even think about the very beginning of Revelation. Literally, John the Revelator is writing to 7 churches about an impending, like this is going to happen soon tribulation, not this is going to happen in 2100 years tribulation. Yeah. He's literally like, this is happening soon. So the early church understood that letter in its context as something that was already there, right? It's only since then have we come up with different readings, because we've been asking the question, how do we think about Revelation for today that is still useful for today, even though we may not have that historic contextual reading as it was for them back then. Yeah. And some people have come up with some strange things, like maybe some dispensational eschatology that is looking at Revelation like a roadmap for the future, because the ancient readers did not read it as a roadmap to the future. They read it as, this is what's happening, and here's what we do, which the biggest part of that is, the fact that John says over and over, to those who overcome, right? To those who overcome, to those who overcome. It was this idea of those who overcome these tribulations. And how do they overcome the tribulations? By following the Lamb that was slain, which is different than saying we're going to overcome the tribulation by picking up a sword. We're going to overcome a tribulation by killing everybody else. It's we follow a king who died, which is paradoxical, right? Like that
Yeah.
makes no sense, which is one of the beautiful things about Christianity is it makes sense because it doesn't make sense.
Mhm.
Like it's powerful because it defies all expectations.
Right.
But when we try to make it work out the way that we want to, it loses its power, right?
Mm.
It's always
Right.
powerful to follow the lamb who was slain, not the warrior king, right? So
Right.
I say all that to say, Andy said it'll definitely answer the long one. Hopefully that's a quick snapshot. There are technically 4 main ways people approach Revelation. But the one that's only 150 years old is, dispensational eschatology. And it's blurry at best. We'll put it that way.
It helps to know, okay, this is 150 years old. So that already lets us know, so nobody before the last century really thought this way. Second, I mean, mainly it's only really popular in America. It's very, it's not like it's not been in, this is like Schofield Study Bible, like me unraveling the history of where dispensational eschatology comes from helped me to kind of feel like, oh, okay, that I'm allowed to think something different. I think especially when, Daniel, you're 18?
Right. I'm 18.
Yeah, when I was 18, I kind of just believed whatever I was taught at church. And that was good. Part of what happens in college is you start really wrestling with ideas.
Yeah.
And you go from, okay, this is what I was taught. And now I'm engaging with the Bible like as a young adult.
Mhm.
And that's a healthy place to be in. And it's a really, really healthy place to be in. I've been there. Aaron's been there.
I'm still there here and there.
For sure. But you're not, there's not like this like attachment to, at 18, I still felt really attached to like what my pastors and my parents and my youth leaders and my pastor kind of like taught me, you know what I mean? And if you grow up in a really healthy Christian environment, I personally believe healthy Christian environments can be bubbles. That's not bad. I actually think a bubble is good. Like a bubble is bad when you're 40, but a bubble is good when you're 16. Like me and you know what I'm saying? So I think Daniel, you're in a great spot. I think listen to your professors. Think through what you don't have to make up your mind today on this.
Right.
Nope.
This is something that's like you're gonna wrestle through like what you think about all types of theological issues for the next couple of years. And
let me say this.
Fun.
Paul Tillich said that the life that someone is, he used the word theologian, but really he was trying to say Christian. And it was a bit of a expansive statement, but he basically said, a true one when they have doubt. And because basically he was giving the statement of who can know God fully because God is immanent and transcendent.
Moses.
Oh yeah, the guy who couldn't even like talk to a rock, he had to hit it because he was so full of doubt.
Saw God face to face.
And he still was screwing up all the time, right? And I say that to say this, doubt isn't a disease. Doubt helps us along the way in learning about God, but we have to learn how to deal with our doubt healthily. And there's a difference between doubt that's healthy and doubt that's unhealthy, right? And that's a process that you get to learn as you start to get out of that bubble, as you should at some point, right?
Yeah.
Hey, appreciate the question. I'm gonna let you go so Manny and I can talk about a few things here before we go.
Daniel, we love you.
No, you too.
Question.
All right. Are you gonna get into the rise of liturgical Christianity?
Super quick, so you can announce the giveaways, right? More and more Christians, especially who grew up in evangelical and Pentecostal traditions, have been recognizing the need for more space to actually think about God in awe and wonder. And liturgical spaces typically do that.
Huh.
When we talk, because liturgical spaces often talk more about mystery, the mystery of Christ, the grand nature of Christ, looking at God in reverence and awe. And it's why we actually see more millennials kind of starting to move towards liturgical spaces, because it is a sense of grounding. There is a sense of consistency and a sense of awe and encounter that is different than our charismatic expressions. And I'm Pentecostal, so I love my charismatic expression, but I also have, even myself, moved more towards those liturgical spaces, as you know, because there's something so deep and profound that felt missing for so long.
That's really cool.
And I think it's pendulum swings, right? Like it's always pendulum swings, right? Our charismatic people who have been in charismatic their entire life, at some point they get drawn to this liturgy and this embodiment and everything. And then you have the times where, before the Pentecostal kind of tradition really exploded, where those things felt dead, and those, often kind of Pentecostals unfairly and unfortunately kind of pointed the finger of saying that's the dead church, right? Like those liturgical spaces.
Yeah.
And I think they're pendulum swings that we're going to we see, and usually somewhere in the middle, things are going kind of good, where we've got the liturgy, we've got the charismatic, we've got and then it just kind of tilts one way or the other. But we can talk more about that later. I literally was having a podcast with a guy today who grew up in a Baptist church, who is now Anglican. And there's me, who grew up in a Pentecostal church, who is becoming a part of a kind of charismatic Anglican denomination in the States. So it's just unique. I keep finding more and more of us. We're kind of around.
I'm about to become Anglican, bro.
All right. We should go through it together, because it's a process.
I don't know. I'm not that serious. But
giveaway.
I like giveaways. Hey, all throughout the month of November, stay tuned to the ARMA Instagram page. We've got a lot of amazing giveaways. We're giving away things all throughout November. We're giving away a pair of AirPods. We're giving away like a backpack full of Bible resources. We're doing a sneaker giveaway at the end of the month on Black Friday. And for anyone who follows me on my Instagram account, you know that I did 2 giveaways recently. I did a scripture journal set and a loose leaf Bible binder. I did those as separate giveaways on my personal Instagram. We're actually going to combine those and do a giveaway on the ARMA Instagram to win both of those resources together. So lots and lots and lots of giveaways.
And we'll have one giveaway specific for people who are already subscribers.
Yep.
So challenges for y'all.
We're going to do an internal challenge for pretty much it's going to pan out to be the person who watches the most content in the month of November. So yeah, lots of giveaways happening. We're really, really excited. We want, we're getting ready for Christmas. And so no better way to get ready for Christmas than with some generosity. Right, Aaron?
Spirit of good giving.
Spirit of good giving. So, hey, with that, we are at the hour mark. Guys, we love you. Aaron, probably going to go watch the debate. I am going to not watch the debate, but I'll be following along on Twitter.
Hey, we got our mute button, so maybe we can hear someone talk.
First time in history, there's a mute button for the debates, for the presidential debates. Hey, guys, we love you. Andy, thanks for tuning in all the way from across the pond. We absolutely love you. Karan, Julie, Daniel, you guys are amazing. Till next time, peace.
Later.